Welcome to a Drop Tent Media production.
The Porcupine with Adam Nutter.
What's up? Adam Nutter here. How are you? That was really gay of me to do that right now. What's going on? You guys know the Porcupine. Yay. Go droptent.com/store. Go buy shirts. Go buy shirts now. Go buy them. The cult shirts are selling. The Porcupine shirts are selling. We got new stuff up in the, if I was professional, I would have this pulled up already. Nope, that's just my own order. Fuck it, it's fine. Go to the store. Go to the store. Buy your Porcupine shirts. Buy your Cult of Us shirts. Come see me do stand-up on the road. The Florida thing sold out. Can't come to that now. That's gone. So I'll be in Florida next month. But the 30th, September 30th, in Horsham, Pennsylvania, I'll be at the, I think it's Fucked Showcase. Technically, it's called the FKD Showcase. Coming out to that, I think tickets are still available to that one. I'll put them on the website, though. I'm pretty sure they're still available. So come out to that. Follow me at Adam Nutter on Instagram for all my other show dates. I post all that shit. And the new Twitter at Tattooed Comic, because other one's gone forever. That shit ain't coming back unless Papa Elon saves us all, which I don't see that coming. So go follow at Tattooed Comic. All right, it's enough for me. Guys, my guests today is from, you guys know him from Tower Power Hour and No Way Jose, Mr. Jose Galison, and from Liberty Leighton, as you guys know him, Outlaw Thoughts Podcast. Leighton Radner, everybody. I know it's supposed to be top, but he had to cancel last minute. But
after that great thumbnail.
I know, right? That you made. I know, it's a bummer. We'll get him back on, and I'll use the thumbnail again. But I did shave my beard too close to my face, and every time I do that, Top goes, "You look like Freddie Mercury, but gayer." So a little head nod to Top for not being here. I got you. Don't worry. Gentlemen, thanks for coming on.
Oh, no problem. Happy to be here.
As I put this comment up before, Figs will not be on tonight, Tyler. Sorry. That's an inside joke from Tower Power.
I want to apologize for my mean and truthful comments I made about Figs.
He's a nice guy. Stop it. He's a nice guy. Did you guys see the Biden speech? Or the Biden interview?
I have not. I keep seeing clips of that. I haven't really had a chance to check it out.
Twitter's been fun.
Yeah. Leighton, you see it?
Parts of it.
What did you think about the? He said the pandemic's over, guys. I don't know if you heard.
Yeah, so that.
The pandemic's over. What do you think? What do you think about it when you heard it? Just regular bullshit.
I think the one clip I saw from that was him forgetting where he was again when he was done giving the speech, and that was the funniest thing I saw from it.
That was funny.
He turned around again like a retard, not knowing where he was.
Yeah. Also, he was like, my age is like a fly. What does that even mean? I've never heard of that before.
Flies live 24 hours. I think he's giving a Kennedy assassination plot doctrine there. He's saying it's going to happen before it happens.
That was wild. It's so obvious how he's like not in control of anything. It's just blatantly obvious every interview he does. He just like keeps looking at somebody. He's like, "Yeah, the pandemic's over." It's like
so. It should never look. The president at one point, like at any given moment, he looks like he's ready to look at the guy next to him and go, "Sup." Like, that is the demeanor he gives off.
Yeah, it's wildly bad. It's wildly bad. But I don't know. Like, where do we go from here? It's like it just keeps getting worse and worse. And then so the dog park in my neighborhood, it's essentially just a stronghold for dumb progressive cucks.
That's every dog park.
Yeah, that's fair. And it's like a social club just for them to get together and say retarded shit back and forth to each other. And every time I go there, it's just always like just a parroting of whatever they heard on CNN the other day. And it gets worse where like even in my own neighborhood, I can walk around and there's Ukraine fucking propaganda all over the place. And this is how much they just don't care and just do what they're told to do. In the window of one of the homes is a Ukrainian flag, but it's upside down. Like, they don't even care enough to, like, know which way to put the flag the right way. They just know that's what they're supposed to do.
We have an auto body place in this town. Now, mind you, I live in a town with 2,000 people, so it's just, most of us are Republicans because it's a fairly right-leaning state. And it's funny to see the anti-Biden stickers everywhere and anti-Biden stuff on people's houses. And then there's like this one auto body place that had a wood, like, chipboard plank that they painted with the Ukrainian flag colors. And for 2 weeks, it was upside down because somebody just walked by and flipped it, and they never noticed. They just left it there for 2 weeks upside down.
It's fucking wild, dude. It's like it goes so deep into like just everything now. Like literally everything is just fucking Ukraine. Economy's great. Gas is going down. It's like it's not. It's still like 380. It's still fucking high. Like I don't know, dude. It's just I'm getting sick of it. And then all the you guys saw the teacher with the giant tits.
Yeah.
Yo, that is something else. Do you think that person's a troll? Like honestly,
no. There's no way.
It'd be a great fucking troll.
Yeah, but dude, there's no way.
It's real out. The only reason I'm saying that is because it's so outrageous. Like it's so over the top. You almost want to go, is this gonna be the one person who's fucking around and just trying to make a like YouTube video or article?
Well, they already released some stuff from the school, I believe, so I think it's legit. I mean, I don't know. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, I don't support it, but I also like kind of fucking care. I don't know. I saw that, I chuckled. I moved on.
That one was just like, look at this fucking whack job. Like, it's not like that. I mean, as far as I know, it's a dude. I mean, whatever they identify, whatever the fuck they are.
So whatever.
It's a whatever. I don't think they were like espousing like sexual things to the kids or anything like that. But it's like that's in public schools. Like
it was Canada, though, wasn't it?
Was Canada? I thought it was.
So,
Canada's
who fucking cares?
Trash.
Yeah.
Who the
She's
fuck?
not espousing anything sexual. She's just espousing some gigantic cans out the front of her chest.
It's fucking what? It really has. We have really come from like a far cry though from like when I was in school. I went to public school for like a little bit. I went to Catholic high school, but I don't know. Maybe my perception was different as a kid because like you're not thinking of that shit. But I don't remember any teacher being like wildly outrageous. Like the teacher that we would like was out there back then was like a chick that wore like a teacher that like wore a skirt all year round. I was like a little higher than the other teachers and like put like we're gonna watch a movie today. We're like whoa. Yeah, like fucking Star Wars, whatever. Like now it's just like I feel like every public school teacher that you see is just like out there to do the bidding of whatever the fuck agenda they're pushing.
Must suck to not be in Florida, guys, right? I hear you guys bitching and complaining. I'm like, I just see the occasional dilapidated Trump sign, and that's about all I see.
Here in Alaska, politics is kind of an afterthought in most things, like culturally, I think. Also because, like, from a state to Fed perspective, the state just cucks to the feds. And so, like, the only real political thing anybody in the state cares about is the natural resource argument, which the vast majority of people aren't having. So it just doesn't like enter people's lives. And so they just all pay attention to the same national shit. But because we have such a huge like Republican like population, I just don't see there's no like protests or signage or like even at the height of the BLM protest mad shit that was going on, there wasn't a single protest that I really ever saw that happened here.
Is Alaska a red state?
Yeah. For the most part. It's a mix, but it is red predominantly.
I know there's a lot of reservations and there's a lot of like, alcohol problems and stuff like that. So that leads to typical welfare state type stuff. Mm-hmm. So if I just had to make assumption based on that, I would assume blue, but then also just the normal rural people would make it red. So yeah,
it's a good hosh posh. And that's why we have like the open voting and things like that. Like you don't have to have prescribed parties. You can just enter the ballot. It's really easy here. That's why the Libertarian Party always has some position in the voting here because they always can be on the ballot. They're always going to be there. There's always somebody running.
Are the cities there? I know there's only like 3 of them, but are the cities there blue by proxy of
what do we consider a city?
That's what I'm saying. That's why there's 3, I think.
The largest city is Anchorage and Fairbanks. Anchorage has a population of like 300,000.
Oh, that's actually, I mean, But I guess for a city, I mean, Staten Island alone has like 600,000 people.
Right.
So-
Right. And Anchorage is a little more spread out and things like that than most traditional cities. It's not like skyscrapers and
Right, but
You
are,
know,
are
that
they
kind of
are they
shit.
like left leaning places?
a
Majority,
little more left leaning, but most of the politics gets done in Juneau, which has a smaller population. And it really, there isn't a predominantly left city or a predominantly right city. Even when you're in the quote unquote right leaning cities, like Anchorage, I would say is more right leaning to a tinge. But Fairbanks is definitely more left leaning, and they're the second largest city. But when you actually get into the politics in those cities, it's much more mixed. Like it's like 50% here, 25% here, and kind of weird positions held. It's actually kind of refreshing because there's more conversations being had behind closed doors. But when it comes to the state and the Fed being introduced, like them working together, that's when it becomes a shit show because the Democrats basically have control of that as far as it goes in this state. And so when the feds say you can't drill here, we can't drill there. And that's the thing that pisses me off. Recently that's brought me to investigating and going down a fucking rabbit hole. This guy named Joe Vogler, who was a badass who used to live in the state, who stood up to him back in the day and got killed. But he was going to go speak to the UN and shit about getting rid of Alaska from the rest of the Union and secession and all that.
Yeah, that would get you killed probably.
Yeah,
Seems to be a trending theme.
Iran agreed to let the guy talk to the UN and killed.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, well, that literally happened. I mean, Jose did a whole series on the Oklahoma cop. Fucking
no, I messaged
killed himself.
I messaged Jose on Twitter about the thing because I was like, "This is an interesting topic," and no libertarians talk about him because he's like, he founded the Independence Party in Alaska, but he helped to found the Libertarian Party here in Alaska as well.
What was the dude's name? The Gray State dude, Crowley.
Yeah.
No one ever talks about him either. I know he always gets like just talked about as being like he was a fucking like a domestic violence guy, but then like all apparently like that's not true either, and just like trying to discredit that guy. You see that shit all the fucking time. Again, the Oklahoma guy, that dude, and they're always like crazy suicides. Like he shot himself 32 times in the head. Crazy, right? It's like, yeah, no, that is crazy.
Yeah. What's sad about
the OKCs?
Yeah, there's so many of them.
There's a lot of people died just randomly. Like, what the fuck?
What was the couple, the rich couple? And they said they hung themselves from like the arch ceiling in their mansion, but their hands were like tied behind their back with like a red handkerchief. This is like a few years ago. Like, fuck, man. I can't.
Wasn't there a guy just recently who was found hung from a tree, shot twice with a shotgun, and they were like suicide?
That was an Epstein thing, I think.
Yeah, that was the connection to
He ended up on some somehow it wasn't on his property. It was on some other property of someone that's related to like the Clinton Foundation, which is like, okay, but yeah.
It's fucking crazy, dude. But that's the thing is like, as much times as it happens, no one's ever been like, hey, like no one of importance has ever, because I guess everybody's afraid to be the next guy to fucking get shot 32 times in the head. But like, it's just gonna keep happening. That's the thing. Like everything keeps happening, and we're all here being like, freedom, whatever. That's why I'm more and more going with the Jose route, honestly. Like, fuck it, it's individual shit. Like, to worry about your family and fuck everything else because nothing's changing. And like, I definitely am gonna sound like a negative person right now with the whole liberty movement and the Libertarian Party, the Mises Caucus, stuff like that. But I don't know, dude. I the two-party system is so fucking strong. Everyone we just ran in Pennsylvania, like in the Libertarian Party, just got voted, like got sued off the ballot. Oh, not everybody, but like the people at Bucks County ran, where I'm from, live right now. They just got sued off the ballot, like easily. Like Fitzpatrick just came. Brian Fitzpatrick, he just for the sore loser law, whatever the fuck it's called, just sued them right off, and they're gone. That's it. It's just like, okay, well. Like,
that's
what do
unfortunate.
You do? Like, so I'm more with the fucking make money, do your own thing, and just fucking. I get it. I totally get it, Jose. Like I'm just behind the curve. I think. On your
power and influence, baby.
Especially like my job. I'm sorry, Lane, go ahead.
I think it's a good mix. I don't see a problem with having good relationships and trying to organize politically, but I also think that you have to measure it against what you're doing in your own like personal life.
I agree. I think it's a
life.
mix of both. For me right now, like I'm not totally giving up on it. Like I still trust Dave and stuff and Heist and I want to see what they're able to do and I want to help. But like, let's say 3-4 years down the road and literally nothing changes. Like if Dave and Heist and Ron Paul couldn't fucking do it, who the fuck is gonna do it? That's my point. So it's like I don't want to. I'm not giving up or anything, but like I don't see anybody else taking the mantle and being like, oh, I'm a better mouthpiece than Dave, or I'm a better mouthpiece than Ron Paul. I don't see it. Am I alone in this thought? Like I don't know. I just
fun thought experiment I've been thinking about lately, and I'm not saying this necessarily means that everything's a bad thing. This is a concept I kind of got from Jared of End Democracy, I think is his Twitter handle, or he's the hopping.org guy. He I think he said something along the lines with the Ron Paul thing is we almost got like a boom bust cycle of libertarians. And this is something I've been thinking about a lot lately, especially with like the whole LPNH, national type divide. Is like if you're angling for the normies, if you do get this like big moment and do get a bunch of normies, at what cost does that come? And yeah, maybe it'll still be overall more beneficial than bad, but I do think there is like when you have this boom of people who aren't really, didn't like they just kind of got there. There's probably a lot of people who see a burgeoning movement jump in, at the beginning. A lot of people who are just like, oh, this is kind of cool and don't really understand it at all and just kind of like sort of milquetoast-ish. I think that creates a lot of your like Cato reason types in the long run. And I personally, I'd rather, I don't know. I'm not saying that like this is say like Ron Paul was overall a bad thing, or if Dave ended up having a similar effect, it's overall a bad thing. But I just think it's just a thought to be had, maybe even something to think about when you're trying to figure out, who you're appealing to. I do think there's something too that there might be a downfall in creating that, because I think it's worse personally. I think I'd rather someone be a normie and not give a shit about this stuff and just be your general sheep/follower than be a Cato Reason type, Well,
because they're actively like hurting. That's why. Because the Cato Reason people are like actively espousing bullshit and lies, as opposed to normies like, I just don't know what's going on. But this is, I'm not against this either. Don't need a better mouthpiece. It's about growing network of influencers becoming a new society. Yeah, he's not wrong. Like, of course, I agree with that. Like, I think we're a good example of that. The three of us. We're all doing saying different shit, but kind of the same. We're all kind of on the same side. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I think that definitely helps growing the network of people for sure. But how long does that go? And again, let's say we grow a bunch of us. If we still can get anything done or change anything, then we just have a bunch of people who are like-minded being like, this is wrong. And they're like, yeah, no, eat a dick. And we're like, all right. Like, it still kind of falls into the same thing. Like, we need people to make a move, but if the system's so rigged against the move, then how's it get done? That's where I struggle with.
I think there's this idea of that, I don't know, whatever. If you want to be politically involved, be politically involved. I've done plenty of covering that. I'm not going to go into all that.
Yeah.
But, like, it is a matter of people are like, we have to do something. We have to do something. I'm like, yeah, sure, maybe there's some merit here and there in certain aspects of political involvement. But just like, someone just, I think Ofer just brought up the growing number of influencers or whatever. And that's just one aspect. I'm not saying that's the only aspect. But that is not someone who's out there doing, I don't know, advocating for this bill or this candidate. Like, you still make moves, without doing that aspect. And my thing is like the political, apparatus is something that's been formed over, depending on how you view it, hundreds, thousands, millennia, and it's something that's been actively been, formed to be against you. And so the idea that you're going to come in and, obviously the game's 100% rigged against you. So, and don't get me wrong, like maybe you can find in some small angle in this one small polity, you can make this happen or that happen. But the idea that that you're going to put all of the eggs or most of the eggs in some sort of political movement and make, especially as liberty type people, and really make any sort of headway, I do think is a little bit foolhardy. I think you're better off in other areas, or at the very least, focus it strategically. I'm a big fan of Hoppe. While I am like an agorist, like the way I look at it is like, if Konkin's wrong, then Hoppe's right. So I'm like, that's kind of how I see it, and I think like ultra localism. I guess I just see agorism as that even going even further in a certain sense, because you're even going further locally. You're going down to the individual, and everything kind of sprouts out from there. But yeah, at the very least, like, this is why, like, with the whole LPNH thing, I'm like all for them. I'm for them fucking doing what they're doing. And I guess my point being is I think you can get more done on a more local level than you can on a larger level. And the idea,
Totally agree.
I even with all this, like, yeah, sure, I guess there is a possibility that everything works out like everybody wants, and we have this huge Big Dave moment or something. But I mean, I don't know. I'm a little bit doubtful. We'll see. I could be wrong. I frequently use the example of like if you're a gambler, like, and I see like you point to Ron Paul as like that one time you hit the jackpot.
Right.
It's like, okay, but yeah, you're on your second mortgage because you fucking wasted away the rest of your money in this game thinking you're going to get some sort of payoff just because you had that one jackpot forever ago. And yet, who knows? Maybe Dave's another jackpot. I don't fucking know. But I mean, I guess if you want to, gamble, I don't know, at least make sure your other shit's in line. You know what I mean? So, and be smart gambling because there's different types of gambling. You could be a fucking poker player and be kick ass at it. Depending on how we use this metaphor. But
I totally agree. But like Benzo makes a good example, like good point. Like a lot of people you do talk to in the LP are like, oh, social media doesn't help. It doesn't help. It's like, well, it does help. Like I mean, I think again the LPNH thing is a perfect example of it helping. I mean, how many followers did they get after that Meghan McCain thing? Probably a shit ton. I don't know the numbers exactly. I know we had Reed and Clint on. I had Reed and Clint on the other week, but like, I'm sure I'm sure the impressions were in the millions. I'm sure they got thousands of new followers, and like that does matter. And then the more they do that, the more and more even centrist people are gonna be like, maybe there's something to this. Maybe, I kind of feel that way too, and they do join. I don't know. I do think social media is important, though. I do think all the YouTube channels. I think all of our shows help. I do. I not like we're fucking making like, drastic changes and anything, but just even if we get the ear of somebody who never would have heard us before, like maybe like your neighbor. Right? I have people come to me all the time. They're like, oh, I see you wear that porcupine shirt. Like, what's that? I'm like, that's my podcast. I'm like, what's it about? Like, oh, it's fucking this and this. And they go, all right, let's check it out. And then I have people come back to me like, oh, dude, I never heard of that before. That's a really cool thing. Like that you said about the thing.
So adding on to that and what you mentioned with the, a bunch of different content creators having smaller followings or medium, middling followings. One thing I view that as is the fact that if you've got 10, 15, 20 people in a little micro community online that all have good size, a couple thousand people follow them on YouTube or whatever, and you can build that up, you might not have effective political sway nationally or even with a political party, like the Libertarians or anybody for that matter. You might have more sway locally than people realize. And I think that if a lot of the content creators turned those inward, there's some usefulness there. I think that depends on the type of show you have. Like, obviously, I think if you focus solely on politics, I never think that's a good idea. Like, I just don't in general. Like, even with, like, Outlawed Thoughts, which is a good deal political, like, we talk about politics a lot, most of the time it's in a joking manner or it's because we're laughing at someone or with someone, which I think is much better for an audience. That's closer to, like, PKA, if anybody knows that podcast, Painkiller Already. They're a bigger show. They do a lot of that kind of stuff where they'll like talk about a Reddit story or talk about a news story that has to do with something political, but they'll put a fun spin on it, or they'll argue about it, which is fun. But doing that all the time, I think it's just fucking, it's impossible to get local involvement, in a community, which I think is useful.
Someone's mic is getting all fucky.
I don't know if that's
I'm hearing mad feedback. It's gone. It probably Jose.
What the fuck?
Or it could be both of you. I don't know. I'm gonna mute both of you in 2 seconds.
I think it was because I had my phone near the computer.
That's probably.
I did want to touch something Leighton just said there, and I do think this kind of goes to the point of localism, like kind of with the LPNH type thing, and I also think it kind of goes to you're talking about the influencers. I do think quality matters far greater than quantity, and I think you can do a whole lot with a small group of decent people, as retarded as it may sound. Like even as silly as it is, like the Tower Power guys, like I can't tell you how many moves we have bullied, like how we have on the fringes pushed things different way or that way or this way, and I think honestly effectively. I mean, like, I'm not to bloviate about how I'm not saying we're even that great or anything. I'm just saying a small group of people, that are coordinated and do things certain ways, have a shared sense of purpose, can get a lot done. I'm not running. But yeah, no, I do think there's something to that. So I think the idea, say, with like what LPNH is doing, putting out like super hardcore shit, and like, yeah, don't get me wrong, they probably do turn away a lot of people, but it's also like, if this is supposedly crunch time or whatever, I think you need a crazy sifting mechanism, and I think the people who who flock to that type of message are people who fucking hate the state, or at least hate, maybe not the state as in the government, but they hate the people there at the very least, and the people that are like, disgusted, and to the point that they're like, I don't want any part of this. I reject libertarianism altogether. I think that's like, I think if anything, that's more indicative of where they were anyways. And the people that like just kind of shrug it, like, and maybe they're not too happy about it. Okay, whatever. That's not a big deal, because I mean, I can't really hold it against anyone who's like that doesn't like it. You know what I mean? Like,
Read.
yeah, like I can't hold anyone against that doesn't like the messaging. But if you're to the point to where you're so disgusted, so against it, you're like, I don't want any part of this. This is going to turn people away. It's kind of like, well, I mean, what the fuck were they to begin with? Like, who gives a shit?
Yeah,
like,
and also to go back on, no, you're totally right. And also to go back what you guys were saying too about about the podcasting and stuff like that. Is like, I don't think, like, I'm a comic, and like, so I'm gonna take a different angle to this talk. Like, I'm always gonna try to be a little more funny, or like, but like, I'm also not the guy to be serious about it. We have guys for that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think everybody should try to be the serious guy. I think that also doesn't work. I think everybody needs to take a different angle to shit. Tower Power takes a different angle to shit. I take a different angle to shit. You take a different angle to shit. Like, we all take a different angle to shit. And I think that's good. It's not like this uniform bullshit. Also, Jose, to defend you, in a group chat I'm in PA, we were all talking about like just again, kind of moving the needle a little bit socially and stuff like that. And someone said, well, Tower Power guys are more into like I'm gonna say clickbaity. It's not the word they use, but I can't think of the word they use. They're more into clickbaity shit than actually like doing work. I go, disagree, because like they are doing work, but in a much different way than, let's say, you're doing work, or like you might be out there getting signatures and stuff, which we need. We also need people to be fucking publicly humiliated for being assholes. And that's where we come in. You know what I'm saying? Like, we need all of it. So I disagree with that. And I was like, no, like, that's not true. Like, we do need all the varieties covered, I think. That's just my opinion anyway.
Yeah. I feel like I honestly 100% believe me being, I guess maybe some weird quandary here, me being the agorist who's not interested in political involvement at all. I feel like I've probably, if I had, and I'm not at all, I'm not saying I have a big show, not saying, like, I'm not trying to make it sound like I'm so big. I feel like I've done far more to move things in my current thing. And if I was just some guy doing, just like some dude who showed up to the caucus meetings and did all that stuff. And so my point is more, I guess, just to be more creative, I guess, as opposed to just like, I don't know, I'm going to fucking, I don't know, go knock on doors or whatever.
Shia LaBeouf got it right. Just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah, there's right now in the chat the smash or pass question from Meghan McCain's being passed around.
Who's this? She's like Oprah. It really is just when, like, at what period of time are we talking about?
Right.
Oprah has always for years been like, ew, she's fat, and then other times you're like, all right, she's looking kind of thick.
Well, also it's like, well, for the story, yeah, right. Yeah. Like I mean, you have to just be like, you never guess what I did last weekend. Like, right? Like, yeah, so. Yes, for me. Yeah, my answer, especially, yes.
I mean, yes, on that alone. But as we take away all her who she is and stuff, and just like say she's some normal chick. Yeah, like say she just looks like, or she's just some normal chick and it doesn't have all these other ties. Like
that makes a good point.
Pass. Okay, I guess my smash is pretty meaningless because it's kind of like I have a pretty low bar for just a smash. But I guess to go with the conventional. How people would smash her pass. It depends. It really, like, she has to go through her periods. She blows up, and then she's had her periods where she was like, she looks, when she was slimmer, like she was like thick in like the good way. But there's sometimes when she's just sloppy for sure. So
it went downhill fast.
Yeah, but most nerds in this party would be like, yes, of course.
When and where, madam?
By the way, we keep talking about that. Men in this fucking movement, be better. Like, stop. This is an old school saying, the whole pussy on a pedestal thing. That's what a lot of guys do in this movement, and it fucking drives me fucking nuts. Like, stop with the simping for fucking online ethos and shit. It's so fucking
Can I tell you my favorite test? anytime I see some thought on my Twitter timeline that I'm not following, that Twitter will just interject into my space, it'll always be because if I click on that person's tweet, some person in the Liberty space that follows me or that I follow has fucking interacted with that goddamn person. And I'm like, what is, you had one job. You had one fucking job.
Someone shared something the other day. I thought this was funny. They shared something that was like, the Liberty movement's missing something. I just can't quite place what it is. And then I quote tweeted. I was like, unironically pussy.
I remember you. Yeah.
You're like, I'm dead serious.
Right. You're right. I am, dude. I can't.
Dude, the only chicks we have are trad wives. That some libertarians are. The trad wives are traps. It's a trap. So
like you think it's like they're lying. You mean
not natural trad wives? So like a relationship you just naturally get into, and that's the roles, right? Fine with that. But there is a trad community where there's like these chicks who are like actively going after guys trying to find people to get into that. And I don't, nope, there's something weird about it. I assume every girl who says that they're part of that trad community is attempting to trap men. They want to trap you into marriage. Marriage is a lie.
Tell it to my wife.
No. See, if you believe it, it's not a lie. Yeah. I don't think they believe it.
Yeah, I just, well,
it's a tool.
Like they erase it, like more masculine libertarians, less feminine losers. Yeah, I agree. Like again, and it's, by the way, I don't even put like, it's like not even really the chick's fault. It's the dude's fault. Like they're gonna do what they're gonna do. I'm talking about the dudes who, like, again, it's like if you look like Leighton, you say, if you look on the fucking timeline, it's like 45-year-old nerds and losers who like can't. I'm like, stop. This is why though, but this is why they're in that position in the first place, because they did their whole fucking life. It's like, at one point you gotta fucking.
There is some fault on the dating pool. I mean, it does fucking suck. I'm 22. Like, I have been in those scenarios where when I was looking for relationships and shit, it sucks. I gave up and then just said, well, then if you naturally find it, it's fine. But if one of these bitches is trying to get in your pants, there's a reason for it. I'm fucking convinced. All these fucking the people that are in the dating pool today, it's the way they look at dating is very different than they used to. And some people like that and some people don't. And I think the people that don't like it are just going to have to fuck each other. Like, that's just going to have to be how it goes. Otherwise, they're never going to like end up with relationships that last. Like all these new relationships between like really different people are crash courses, man. Like, and especially the dating app world, which is introducing a lot of people that way. Because you see somebody on a dating app, you don't know what their views in their home life are or what their like bent is. You go out on dates and stuff, and then you feel like there's this social pressure to get married. You get in a relationship you don't want to, and in 8 years you're fucked.
Yeah,
like, that's happening a lot. Like the divorce rate and stuff is what I like. And so I look at it like,
isn't that contribute to the culture we're in though right now? Like the divorce rate and stuff, right? Yeah.
You're not wrong. I think marriage is good if you believe in it. And that's my position on it. Like if it's something you feel both the people in the relationship feel as though they are gaining the same thing from, I think it works. But if it's being utilized as a tool on either side, it really goes bad.
Someone in the chat said young Nancy Pelosi was hot, but I Googled young Nancy Pelosi and I cannot find one picture.
She scrubbed the internet
of her young. If anybody can find that, hit me up.
Her husband drove through them all.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot. Oh yeah. I don't know, dude. I just think our culture is just shit. We talk about that all the fucking time. Like it's just going downhill. And I think social media is such a fucking 50-50. I don't even know if it's 50-50 good bad anymore. It's like 70-30 good bad good now. Like
can I be
good out of it?
I'll be a devil's advocate on the anti-social media stuff. I think social media is bad for really young people. But I think for people who are matured enough to be on it and understand what social media is, I don't see an issue with it. The problem is that the young people their parents are all sticking them on the social media the second they get access to it because they're in public schools. They don't pay attention to them. Like that's the culture building element. So like if to me to fix that, it's not getting rid of social media. It's getting rid of the public school system and helping that part of it out. Pod learning and homeschooling and that stuff. I didn't go to public school at all. I was homeschooled and then self-taught, and that's how I did my thing. And I think that because of it, I look at social media as an email. It's just a thing that I'm putting out there, and then the people I want to see it, and if they don't, they don't, and then it's just gone. Like it's not impressionable to me. I think a lot of young people get stuck on it, and it becomes impressionable. Like the things on social media affect their lives, and that's dangerous.
Yeah, well, David Brady just made a good point. Any team hasn't gotten over the depressed teen face shouldn't be on social media.
Yeah, well, he's right. He's 100%.
No, he is right, because again, I think that also obviously goes to the whole like trans movement and stuff like that. Right, like 100%. It's like you're just sad and depressed about something else, and
it's the hive mind.
This is the new fad, I'm gonna call it. And it's like, oh, this
blame
is
social media for the 40%. Come on.
Well, like, so on social media, like when Vine was a thing and that was big, like we saw a kind of resurgence of the goth movement on there. I really do, and I know this is a dangerous thing to say, but I do feel like the trans thing is a lot like that. It's a resurgence of another type of fad in the young community, and the difference is it's something permanent that isn't really reversible in the way they think it is, because they've been sold a bill of sale that is incorrect. And that's why I think the people saying there's going to be a lot of lawsuits and shit are right. Like that's going to be what this generation is known for, is in 20, 30 years, a wave of medical lawsuits and bureaucratic garbage that's created off of this bullshit.
Oh, yeah, but you can't stop depressed sad boys for getting on Twitter and doing whatever the fuck they're doing.
No, you can in the household, I think, though. You can have responsible
I think it's
parents.
A lot yeah, no, definitely. And who could like put locks in your phone and stuff like that. But like,
well, even just explain to the kid why it's bad. Like from a young age, if our culture was moving in the direction where we understood that, hey, you can use this thing. Like for instance, when my dad was a kid, his parents would have 100% given him alcohol under 18 if they knew it was in the household and he wasn't going anywhere to get fucked up or get fucked up, beaten up, or getting some accident or something like that, right? So, and I think there's a lot of libertarians who might not say it online, but agree with that. Like they'd be like, yeah, I don't see an issue with that in the world, right? Same scenario here. Like maybe it's a rule where it's like, yeah, sometimes you explain to the kid, this is something I don't want you doing to your older. But if you're going to do it, just be responsible and explain what social media is and how it works. The problem is all the parents are boomers. So we're not going to see that happen for 2-3 generations. We're going to be dealing with this for 20, 30 years.
To be fair, I don't think the parents are boomers anymore. I think it's
that's true. They're Gen X.
Right.
It's the whole coddling of the American mind thing, right? It's like
I would
the Gen
say
X.
I know what you mean.
Like a 50, 55-year-old parent. And I mean, my dad's 55, around that age bracket, and I am around a lot of people in that age bracket. I don't know how well even people in that age bracket are going to be able to show some kid on their smartphone about what social media is or how it's dangerous or good or bad. Like, I don't know if like it almost should be something that, and I hate to say it, like is included in a homeschooling program or is included in a pod learning thing and spread through homeschools and public schools if it need be. If they exist, then maybe that should be something that's talked about in them, how to be on social media.
Well, I'm not in school now. I'm 35,
right.
but I doubt public school. Maybe they're doing it private schools, but I doubt public schools are teaching kids like the efficacies of fucking social media.
No, you know what they tell people? Because I have brothers in school right now and they talk about sexual predators, and that's it. They just tell you, don't talk to anybody on social media that's asking you to send photos. And that's all they care about. And it's like, well, that's not the important shit, because that makes up a microcosm of the internet. I mean, talk about, don't put your public name on social media until you're older. Don't post photos of yourself, period. Like, just don't. Like, if I could go back in time and erase every photo off the internet of me before I was 16, I would. Because I look like shit. I'm a fucking acne-faced kid. Like, no one wants that on the internet in the future. Like, so if your kid can go back and, like, if I could go back in time and stop myself and say for an hour, hey, don't upload photos of yourself. Don't use your actual name and shit until you're a little bit older and you want the impact of your statements to be used against you. And I think it'd solve a lot. Now, I'm not for the cancel culture thing that part of that warning's for, but there's, even if you're not for cancel culture, there's political opinions. I certainly said I was a raving leftist and raving rightist at one point. I went all over the place. So there's certainly statements I made I don't like that are still out there. I grew, but I probably shouldn't have made them in the first place, right? Like,
yeah, but just again, going back to the school, just like they won't teach you how to do a checkbook or something
right.
like basic
well, I
shit.
think they should teach that too.
They should, but they're never gonna, right?
No,
Obviously, it's
I know.
about fucking
Right.
just towing the line and doing what you're fucking told.
That's why I think pod learning and homeschooling is a better place to spread it. And I don't see that being picked up in even those areas. Like,
I guess my question for about the homeschool, which I definitely think you should homeschool your kids, right? But like, or go to a private school. But like, if you can't do that, because everyone can't just homeschool their kids.
I mentioned
you know what I'm
pod
saying?
learning
Like,
because I think pod learning is the solution to homeschooling. Homeschooling works for a very small percentage of the population, and libertarians put way too much love into it and aspiration, in my opinion. It worked for my family because we lived with 7 people in a 500 square foot cabin in the middle of nowhere. Like, that's why it functioned. If you're a family that works and everybody's going out and doing the kind of 9 to 5 office jobs, that's not going to work for you, and you're never going to be there to teach your kid anyway.
right.
Teaching your kids self-sufficiency and teaching them how to teach themselves was something I learned that was very useful. So I think it's important for people to know that. But I would say pod learning, having, if you have 8 or 9 families in an area, they can get together, and the same money they're paying into that school system, they can be hiring 2 or 3 independent teachers that are really good in a couple different categories of teaching, who can come in and do a class each day. And a lot of those services have been popping up across the US, but you can start your own. Like, it's not even that difficult. Like, there's paperwork and things involved, and obviously dealing with the state,
Right.
but it is something you can do. Or you can do it under the table. Some states, like, homeschooling's really relaxed. Like, in our state, it is. You can just kind of do it. Like,
Yeah, well, it's Alaska, so you can do a lot there. You can also just shoot a bear in the face. You can do what the fuck you want out there. But like, no, yeah, I think that's definitely the future. Or again, like, my wife's a Catholic school teacher. It's a private school.
Right.
It's that's also the way to go. But like, public schools clearly are not the way to go anymore. Those are fucking way far. I mean, they were probably failing back when I was in school in the 90s, I would assume. I just, again, you don't realize it. I'm sure wasn't as bad, but I'm sure if I talk to my parents about it now, they might be like, yeah, there was some weird shit, but overall it was okay. But I don't know. I would have to ask them. I mean, I don't really remember.
I talked to my grandmother. She went to Catholic school and then college and graduated for religious studies. And she went to a kind of liberal California college and California, area growing up. So she was around pretty, but it was religious, so it's different. But with my dad, he went to school in Hawaii and Alaska. So
It's like the two
very
further states from anything. It's wild.
Yes.
It's like he just doesn't want to be around people.
so Hawaii is still to this day, from what I understand, one of the worst high schools in the country. It's really violent and really bad, especially if you're white. That's a big problem, which he was, obviously. So their stat, I imagine, doesn't mesh too well. So I can imagine how bad that would have been. But no, he hated public school. So did my mom. They both went to horrible schools. So when I was older, that was the reason they said, fuck all that noise. They were like, I'm never putting any of and I have 4 brothers, and none of us, the only ones that have been in public school are the ones that are around now in Seward, because this school has a very small schooling population. So it's just easier.
I'm sure there are like decent public schools in the country. There has to be, because they have to be small, isolated
very
from cities,
rural areas,
right? Because there's no way any city public school is fucking good. Like, I can't imagine it being, especially in 2022.
I guess it depends on what you mean by good. I went to a public school in Tennessee. Like, my schooling, I grew up in Maine, and about halfway through high school moved to Tennessee. But in Maine, I went to public school for a little bit early on, but then went to a K through 12 fucking Christian private school, and we had like less than 100, like probably like 30 people in each class.
Right.
Like the whole class, like say I was class of 09, our whole class of 09 was like fucking 30 to 40 kids. But then I moved to Tennessee, and it was a public school, but we lived like super rural there. And I mean, I don't know. I've never noticed any of the fucking woke bullshit or any of that crap. But like, I was also out in the fucking sticks. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm sure their test scores are probably kind of meh, but I didn't have an issue with that because I always was a high scorer. Fucking, if anything, it was probably like it was too easy for me. But I don't know. I guess it depends where your parameters are.
Humble brag.
Humble brag, yeah.
No, if anything, it kind of bit me in the ass because I got kind of like lazy when it came to schoolwork because I was just like naturally just could like ace tests, but then wouldn't do like so. When I got to college, it fucking bit me in the ass. But so I only did a semester. Yeah, fucking.
I went to 4 years and didn't graduate. Like, I went to 4 years of college and didn't graduate. Asshole,
right.
I am.
I did a semester, bombed so hard, and I was like, you know what? Like, I gotta fucking. I lost it because I like basically was all paid for because I had scholarships and grants and stuff, and so I was like, but then after bombing the first semester, I would have to pay for it, and I'm like, I'm not gonna take this seriously, so I don't want to actually pay for it. So I got a free semester of partying. So,
but yeah, it's fair. but I even see it like in the Catholic because my wife's Catholic school teacher, and like the woke stuff is like it's getting in there too. Like it's not like they're not immune to it. All these private schools because like teachers are gonna be teachers, right? And teachers are going fucking more and more left, and especially during the whole COVID thing, I saw like firsthand from like this side of the table, like teachers actually being like, I'm so scared of going to school. And then I'd see pictures of them on Facebook at the beach, that shit. And it's like, oh, these are the motherfuckers who are like tearing everything down. And then same thing with woke stuff. It's like, they're like, how about we want to talk about pronouns? And it's like, it's the Catholic school, dude. The fucking shit out of here.
Right.
Yeah, it was nowhere near that for me. Like, we probably had like 2 black kids and like 2 gay kids and the kid in the school in Tennessee. And like that, in that school, it was a little bit larger. I probably had like 100, 200 each class. But yeah, no, like they would like mercilessly make fun of like the black and gay kids. Like it was like kind of funny, but it's like, all right, guys, you're gonna look carried away.
Yeah, it's like let's spread it out a little bit. This is just going back to the same beating an old bit to death. But like, it's not immune. Is my point. So like, that's why I do think the pod way is definitely the way. Or if you have the means to homeschool, that's the way, because the only way I think your kid eventually will not be indoctrinated down the line. I don't see you getting out of it. If you send your kid away somewhere, I don't see him getting out of it anytime soon.
No, they're not being taught any of the things that are necessary for them to understand the ideas of individuality to any degree in public schooling. And I've seen it even with my own brothers, obviously, with some of them going to the public school here, just learning about what they learn about, and then having to immediately be like, okay, here's all what they got wrong. And here's backup literature to show you why it's wrong. So I'm not just being a know-it-all. Like,
yeah, but like it's the thing of like, okay, well, how do we stop all that bullshit from happening? It's like you can't.
You
It's
have to
almost
get them out of there.
impossible.
You got to get them out of there. Oh, and for the record, if you abso-fucking-lutely have to, and you have the money, private school is fine. Religious private school is fine. I would just say if you can teach them in your home, it's going to be much more comfortable for the kid, and they're much more receptible to learning.
Yeah, probably for sure. But
that's
like,
just.
But then, like, the other not fear. The other concern is like Leighton's camera's gone. The other concern is deprogramming like these fucking kids from like getting this shit in their brain. How do you fucking be like, hey man, this actually is bad for you? And like, because they're so fiercely in the cults, so to speak.
I think most people don't understand how willing kids are to actually listen to adults. And so parents
do a line of cocaine and
no, I did not. I
was thinking that. You want to say anything?
My whole nose has been stuffed up this whole show, and I just drank
with cocaine.
I have edibles. I'm not an upper person. Everybody should know this about me.
Time and place for everything.
No. What I was gonna say was with like kind of getting people deprogrammed. I think the easiest way to do it is literally to just tell them the problem. Like, I think a lot of people have this understanding that their kids are kind of a blank slate, and then the school gets them and they turn them into this raving statist. And it's like, It might feel that way, but for the most part, if they're under like the teenage years and you can get a hold of them, you're going to be able to talk to them and they'll be able to understand what you're saying to them. If you just explain basic situations, like if it's something like a history, that's the biggest thing I'm worried about is like history gets taught in schools really in a fucked up way. I don't like it. And so a lot of that stuff, it's just giving them the literature they need to read and explaining to them exactly why what they were just taught is bullshit. And most of the time, if they're under the teenage years where they want to be rebellious, I find they're fine. But that's just experience with my family and surrounding family too. So
yeah,
it's
but like, and also like Alaska is different than fucking New York. So so that's the problem too. And
I know a lot of Floridians too that homeschool in a few different areas, but it's a little bit different over there too because they have a lot more pod learning because there's a lot more people.
Right.
So
there is also like the saving grace of like, I have younger family members and stuff like that, and sometimes you'd be like, yeah, what do you think about all this? Like this fucking shit going on, like they're like, fuck, I don't give a fuck. Like I'm not with it, and like I don't think the younger generation is as lost necessarily as we think it might be, because like again, there are a bunch of young boys and girls who are like, fuck that shit, dude. I don't fucking subscribe to that nonsense. Like I just do my own thing, I play sports, I don't fucking pay attention. The problem is though, they can't speak out about it. That's the problem. Like as opposed to the three of us, so we're adults who I can't get in trouble for what I'm saying. No one could fire me, for my. So it's like,
right.
We could out here be like, no, that CRT whatever's bad, the fucking gender shit's bad, the fucking it's all bad. Stop doing that shit. They though, as a 13-year-old kid in a high school, a public high school, let's say, who's just, I'm sure they walk in the door in June or not June, but like after the summer, and there's just fucking the flags everywhere and the inclusivity and all. I'm sure, and they're like, yo, if I say anything, I'm fucking dead here.
Yeah.
Like,
I think a big part of that though is the parents' cultures seeping into the public schools. Like public schools for the most part have school boards, and those school boards are made up of parents like most of the time. My dad was part of the school board for our homeschooling group, but that school board made decisions for other things too. If the parents who are joining those school boards are all these leftist liberal types culturally, then you're only going to get that as a result.
But that's what we saw during COVID. Literally,
right. Well,
was a great example, actually.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. So the public schools in that regard, like either we're going to have to see an insurgence of other parents running for those positions and pushing those people out, which is an option, obviously. But again, I think that's such a slow process with the public schools. It's just not it's not feasible. It's just, that would take so much energy from the parents. And again, most of these people are sending their kids to public school because it's easy,
What's translingualism?
Translingualism?
You guys know what that is? Brady, fucking
people who can speak multiple languages.
Kind of linguist, but for trans people.
Yeah, that was yeah. yeah, that's what I was thinking too. But I is that like a thing where like if you only speak English, you're racist now or something like that? Is that what they're doing? Like I don't know. Everything's so fucking crazy.
Sprechen Sie die Deutsch?
I just grew up playing football. You know what I'm saying? Like what happened to that? What happened to just football?
What happened to smear the queer?
What happened to that? I don't understand. And again, I don't really how to fix it. Hopefully, the young generation gets their shit together. I don't know. I do think, like Jose said before, it's not the boomers anymore who are the parents, like the Gen X crowd, and they fucking suck. They fucking suck. They are the perfect helicopter parents who do everything for these fucking kids, who never want them to fucking handle anything on their own. Like how many times, like when I grew up, it was just like, oh, all right, we'll figure it out. Okay. I gotta go figure this out, I guess. Every part of my life was like, go figure it out.
We had generators to start. Like, like we lived in that's what I find funny is like, because my dad's in this weird age position where he's like 58. So I think most people picture him as, he's born in 65. So most people picture him to be kind of that, I think, a little more uptight or a little more liberal. They either think he's one way or the other because they assume he fell in that age bracket of the times. But he's much more now like, just like the government needs to stay the fuck out of people's way. Like, because he's gotten older and he started making money and, trying to supply for a bunch of kids. And it's like, yeah, you can't like fuck these people,
So
which is how a lot of Alaskans get to that point.
translingualism is essentially removing all grammar rules and shit for subjective, authentic voice because grammar rules are oppressive towards minorities. Oh, so I was kind of right.
So hey, so wait, Adam, can you read that chat again without grammar rules?
How would you?
I know. That's what I'm saying. I don't even
makes
understand this.
You throw some ebonics on it? I don't know.
I guess what I'm saying. Like, how would you do it? Yeah, would
Man.
you just talk like the dudes in Airplane? Like, is that how you do it? Like the jive talk? Like, how the fuck? But no, Josh is right here. Like, our parents let us touch stove, so we don't have to touch stove. Yeah, that's just kind of how it was. And it was a lot, like, again, like, especially growing up playing sports, it was like, oh, you got fucked up? That sucks. Be better at this next time.
Oops.
There was no, like, you deserve a trophy for getting smashed on,
Dude,
in football.
My dad's advice, if somebody was being bullied in my family, was to go get the other brothers that they had in the family if the guy was bigger, and they would beat the fuck out of them. Like,
But
if somebody
that's
yelled,
gone, though, now.
if
That's all
somebody
gone.
yelled at my dad in traffic, and I was in the car, I was getting out to fuck that person up. Like, that's how this works. Like, I had you so that I don't have to do this anymore.
But that all goes right back to, again, instead of them dealing with it, they call an authority figure, which in this case would be the police.
Right. Yeah.
They don't want to handle themselves.
Well, that's not going to happen in anybody in my family.
No, none of us here. But
it's amazing. But no,
that's the point. That's what's going on in the country, though, right? It's like you have all these fucking young kids who never got taught to handle. Like, oh, that guy punched you in the face. Go punch him back, pussy. Yeah. That's how it was. Now it's like, I got punched in the face. Police? Can you handle this for me? It's like immediately an authority thing.
I'm black.
Well, then you get shot. Also,
oh shit!
Everybody gets wiped out.
I got punched. Pop.
So I don't know. Again, we just grew up vastly different, and I don't see it. I don't see the pendulum swinging back that way. I just keep seeing it swinging farther and farther one way than I do.
On a smaller scale in communities, it'll swing back, but on a national scale, this is a train that's going to run into a fucking wall. That's how it ends. Like,
I don't know. I think it'll come back eventually. It's just a matter of when, where, how. I don't know. We'll see.
Why do you think that, though? Like, what gives you hope?
I mean, I don't know. I've heard a lot that apparently based, like, especially like, or whether it's conservative or libertarian or hard right type shit has been kind of resonating with like the younger generation. So I do think it'll swing back at some point. I mean, probably maybe even go too far that way and then come back. I think that's just kind of how things go over time. We'll see. I don't know. I have a hard time believing this doesn't seem sustainable like at all. So I mean,
but like okay. But for instance, like Disney and Marvel are losing money, a shit ton of money right now because it's just woke trash now, right? Like they don't care though. They're still doing it. So that's why I always thought money was the end all be all of everything, no matter what. Like once it came down to the wallet, everyone changed their fucking attitude real quick about, you can be as progressive as you want. Once your money, like look at the Martha's Vineyard thing, right? They're like, we want minorities to come in. Well, not here. That's crazy. But like outside of here, it's the same shit.
Real quick with the Marvel shit though, that's when like stuff like ESG comes into play, and you got to think there are already these large, huge things. They're kind of in this thing. Like if you're trying to use Marvel or whatever as an example, or some of these large like Disney, I think over time the I don't know if you want to call it the parallel economy or whatever, the lower. I mean, shit, we're getting to a point probably within the next decade. We'll get to a point to where like feature films won't be that hard to make just for people in their fucking homes. Right. So it'll get
media is going to swing back.
Right.
So it's like, it's not sustainable. And like, you have things like ESG that are propping it up for now, but it's just not sustainable. Cause you see, I don't know, a good example would be, you look at podcasts compared to the fucking conventional media. It's like, it's a joke. Like look at, Brian Stelter, he went under. That's a good example. But like, and think about how much it costs. Yeah, think about how much it costs for their operation. The guy who's like holding the boom is probably making like $50K or some shit. Like,
because you have all the fucking union rules and all that shit.
You've got 8 people in that room just operating cameras and microphones.
Now you look at somebody like Dave Smith. He has a webcam, and he has Brian McKay and a network. And like, I don't know if you know Brian is. Brian's like his dude. His his Jamie. Essentially, and then I guess he has Robbie, which I don't know. I don't know how they compensate or how work all that, but I guarantee you, not even a fraction of the cost of fucking something like, the Stelter or Don Lemon's
No,
operation.
Gas Digital pays the producer, and that's it.
So like, it's just not sustainable. You look at the economics of it; they're going to get blown the fuck out after a while. And yeah, they're going to be able to keep out little people, like or kind of with like shadow banning and all their little things. Like people like us kind of hold it down, but after a while, it's like you'll just, I feel like the floodgates will open after a while.
I'll add a little pessimism to that.
Wait, before you do add pessimism, let me add optimism to you. Because to Jose's point about making full-length feature films at home, I just saw an article on Twitter today that said Hollywood's laying off massive people, like, because they can't sustain it. So that goes to Jose's point, I think.
Yeah.
Hit me with the devil's advocacy, though.
One thing that I just witnessed, and I think everybody to a degree got to witness happen over the last few weeks, that I think is a negative impact to the culture as a whole that will come back to bite us, is this Kiwi Farm shit. Because they were successful in getting that fucking website deplatformed completely from the internet currently. I mean, it operates, but it's on the back end of an onion thing, and it doesn't really work. Can you fill me in
exactly with the key? Because I don't really understand it fully. So, like, if you could quickly just fucking everybody doesn't know.
There's an internet person named Keffels, who is a menace to society, who's to the internet at least, has given out Trunshine or puberty blockers and different things to minors without parents' consent. A lot of the importation of some of the stuff that was in like childhood, like childy packaging and shit like that says keep away from parents, that kind of shit. And teaching people how to make hormones and shit at home was a big part of it. That's where the Trunshine thing comes from, is bathtub. But basically, she went after Destiny and a bunch of other content creators that she felt as though were like anti-trans. Mm-hmm. And there's this forum website called Kiwi Farms that documents individuals on the internet. A lot of people don't like them because they'll dox people a lot. It's not really doxing because it's all public information. They're just well, I understand it is to a degree, but the legality of it is that it is a free speech platform. That's the whole moniker of the place.
I actually don't think doxing should necessarily be illegal. I think it should just be frowned upon. Like,
I agree with you there.
Yeah,
and everybody frowns upon. I frowned upon the actions of a lot of things Kiwi Farms does. But I recognize it as a free speech platform, a place that I have gone before, and a place that I think is a necessity on the internet.
Because even though it's not technically doxing, obviously while you're doing that, the intent is to hurt that person. Like, obviously, otherwise you wouldn't be doing it. So that's why it's fucked up. Obviously,
the life ruination stuff is not a big. I'm not a big fan of life ruination kind of shit that a lot of people do. But in the end, what ends up going on is Keffels decides she's going to wage this war against Kiwi Farm because they aggregated info on her, including past statements she made on the internet. She stole money from the Communist Party of Canada, and got involved in a court case over there. Well, no, but she's like an out and out.
Actually, is she awesome?
She's like still to this day like an out and out commie and shit. She just got snippy and wanted money to basically get out.
That's every commie we've ever seen.
It's a whole. Yeah,
it's literally every single commie always like, we hate money, but give me all the money.
So they collected all her statements on giving stuff to kids and going behind people's backs and anti-male shit, and just put it on the forum. She got mad about it and ended up going after it to the degree that she levied a campaign online, went after the ISPs, their DDoS protection platforms, the people that all like actually keep the site running, which previously had been known for staying clear. They originally said they were going to back the site, and then they pulled them at the very end, and nobody else will take them. They've gotten on 2 other platforms, and those platforms immediately dropped them within a few days because they were bombarded with people. There's probably government involvement behind closed doors of the feds from an internet level telling some of these providers not to give them service. It's to me, it's a sign that can be done to other websites in the future, and will be done to a point where if you can't host your, like, building your own ISPs and stuff is almost impossible. Like no one has that kind of money at this point. It's going to be a while till that's in a reality. So in the meantime, it is literally looking like it's possible where they can just delete you literally off the internet, like from the core.
Remember the fake masks people?
Yeah.
They had to change their website 7 times.
Yeah. Well,
'Cause they
this
kept
is
getting
even
taken
different
out.
because those are the hosting for
Right,
the internet. This is straight up like DDoS, like just the company to protect you from hacking attempts is saying we're not getting involved with you anymore.
Right.
I mean, it's akin to being blacklisted from flights. Like they're just saying you no longer have the ability to gain this service.
It's truly like they're canceling you as a human being, like fuck
Yeah.
social media.
Oh,
They're like you just don't exist anymore,
Yeah,
which
I
is
mean-
super scary.
My point though is I feel like that's just like one anecdotal example, and I also think when you see
It's definitely
something
true,
like
too,
that, like I'm sure anytime you hone in on one example of a negative thing, I think it's easy to go how bad it is. And don't get me wrong, it is bad. But at the same time, I also think there are probably positives. I mean, I'm not a nerd guy. I don't know all the fucking details, but I would assume there are probably ways that people can go about this to be, I don't know, smarter or what. I mean, I don't know even what the fucking ISP is. Please don't tell me. I don't care. But like, you know,
Internet service provider. I had to. I even knew
there
that
you
was.
go, whatever. But my point being is, I wouldn't be surprised, and especially as technology grows, you know, this will be more. This is we always say decentralize this, decentralize that. I mean, even if that is a hurdle that can't be overcome, I think being the kind of people we are, when you strike down one of these, 100 more pop up. Like I don't think it's as simple as. And you know what? The crux of this is some person who changed their biology, and let's be real, to where they can't breed. So they're literally taking care of the problem for us. So, if we're talking about future, how this works out.
You also have like all the people with the abortion stuff came down. They're like, we're gonna get vasectomies. We're like, okay.
Yeah.
one blossoming rose from this whole story is that I believe at this point, the last time I heard Joshua Moon talk about it, who's the guy who owns Kiwi Farms, he is going to be moving on to the Mastodon, like the node thing.
I don't know. Now I don't know what that is.
So it's like some kind of weird social media program that's a crypto based, where you can like each person can build a node and it operates as his own like social media platform, basically.
Okay, but see, this is how much I don't know about like all this tech stuff. But isn't that on an ISP somewhere? Like, can't that get shut down too?
It's crypto, so it's
technically
on like a bajillion different ISPs.
But it's
Okay.
a little bit harder. The problem is the
So
more
it's like a
you do
VPN
this,
for ISPs essentially.
Well, I mean,
Right.
my understanding of crypto is essentially they break up the information to where, like, in the internet and it connects all together. It makes sense, but it's all stored on separate like,
Decentralized.
locations, decentralized out the asshole. So the idea that you could nuke that is this kind of proves my point. I know, for example, there was recently a thing with what was it, crypto? There was, especially with like the trucker things. I remember I was talking to Aaron because I was doing this a live reading series with him, and we were kind of talking about like an algorithm and shit. And it was kind of like, I don't remember exactly the tone we hit, but it was kind of like, oh, this is bad. I was like, or is it bad, or is this like actually a bit of a cleansing mechanism to where it's like, now the people are going to be, it's kind of like with all the truckers who got their shit taken. I'm not a crypto guy, so if I mess up some term here, but I know it's kind of like the whole idea of it's like if it's not your keys or whatever, like, or not your wallet, it's not your keys kind of deal. And
kind
so
of like
now,
the Judge Dredd's gun. You can only shoot if you're a judge.
So I know a lot of people, they get caught up in these, and I need to get into crypto. I just haven't got around to it because tech scares me. But anyways, I know a lot of people going forward will probably be smarter about it and probably start storing their shit on their own wallets that they have access to, as opposed to these flashy things that they can do all the easy shit for them. So I do think it's I think it goes both ways. I mean, I'm sure. I mean, I guess this even kind of brings back to like the LPNH thing. When you create these like divides and to where like these divisions, I actually think division's a good thing in a lot of ways. I think it kind of cleanses it out, like with the LPNH thing, with these type things where it's like it's causing you to either get on or get off type thing, like to be either go full bore or go off. I think it's a good mechanism. It's going to take all the fucking idiots who don't. And I would cover that, David, but Pete already did it great with Aaron, so I don't really see the point of covering it again. Maybe years from now I'll do it. Anyways. I think there's something to that. The idea of it's kind of like a cleansing mechanism. It kind of gets rid of the fake bullshit, brings in the good, or at least people are kind of like milquetoast. So I don't know. I'm all for division. I mean, we always talk about fucking secession and shit like that. I think driving a wedge is a good thing. It kind of makes people choose which side of it they're on. So
I'll agree with that.
Do you guys think Eric July is? I know his comic books already made like 3 million in sales, whatever. But is that gonna hold?
Can I'll comment on this. I think if Eric is smart and he puts it into infrastructure, as in building up some more good artists and bringing over some more good people and continuing on to put out more comics with more people, bringing more people in and putting out I feel like a Liberty Space or a non-woke minded or just neutral, like what he's trying to do, which is more, I think, just politically neutral, is actually what he's going for.
Yeah, I think
with something like that,
yeah,
he should just make a comic label and put out a bunch of comics for himself and other people, and make that model transferable to other people. And I do think it'll be successful. I don't know if it'll change the comic world, but the comic world's really small right now anyway.
It's also they're losing. I know DC is losing more than Marvel is, but
they're all the mainstream comics on 80% of the issues are losing, and they're only making money on the stuff that is really well known. So
everyone's going to manga right now. I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's exactly what's happened.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Because they are and the new stuff is garbage. And I can tell you, even in the comic shops locally, if you go to town here in Alaska, you will not find most of the comics. 90% of them in the store are from 2010 or older.
Yes, that's true. Even here, but Jose, what are you saying about the manga?
Manga is, for those who aren't aware, that's just basically Japanese comics.
Yeah.
It's kind of like any anime you've ever seen is almost 100% probably was a manga at some point. It's kind of was the original comic book, fucking movies. But just now they're starting to catch on. But they're just, I don't know, a lot of them really are just great storytelling. I haven't read a ton of mangas. Anyone who doesn't want to get a manga, probably the best one to start with is Berserk. Berserk is fucking phenomenal.
Berserk is great.
I can't get over the fucking anime. I'm so much of a fucking American comic book fanboy, the old school Spider-Man. I just got a Spectacular Spider-Man 94 in today, which is the first appearance of Spot, the villain, because he's a new villain in the upcoming Spider-Verse movie. But I will always go back to the old school Spider-Man, old school Batman shit, because it's so good.
Right.
And
so
it's ruined now. It's completely
we're
making Batman bisexual now.
Those comic books that you're talking about, though, those are still to this day the only ones that anybody reads currently in mainstream DC Marvel. So it's the only thing that makes money. Every new thing they come out with, or
trash
new series they come out with, is just getting, compare it to even just 10, 15, 20 years ago in comics, it's just abysmal. It's Magic the Gathering is something I'm really into, because it's something I played a lot of and know more about, because I used to go to tournaments and all of that shit. And they have kept a good deal of their fan base for the reason that they didn't get involved in this shit. And recently, in the last few years, they've been going the woker direction and starting to advertise that shit, and the fan base has collapsed. People just don't give a fuck anymore. I've seen card collections on Craigslist left and right and Facebook. People are just done.
The haters of Eric July will say that we're only buying that stuff or consuming it because it's anti-woke. And that's why I was asking the question. It's how does we keep pushing that? And then I think of Image and shit started purely as a hatred out of Marvel.
Yeah.
Thomas McFarlane left Marvel because he was like, wait, you can't just take fucking Carnage and Venom and fucking Spawn for me. And then they're he's like, well, we can't. He's like, well, fuck this.
Top Lobster in the chat. Into the Spider-Verse was an amazing movie, but it also wasn't really Marvel or DC or anything. It was Sony.
Yeah,
right.
I want to touch on real quick. I do think when it comes to comics and stuff, a lot of times people are retarded and this is a charged conversation one way or the other. I think a lot of people don't read the comics and don't understand the dynamics. Like you brought up a bisexual Batman. I'm sure probably there is. A lot of people don't realize how it works a lot of time in the comics is there are both DC and Marvel have a multiple universe type scheme.
Correct.
So there are always, Earth 2 or Earth 3 or
52 of them in DC.
Yeah, for 52 for DC, and then Marvel has what is it 616 is the main one.
That's the
Marvel.
main one. There's like an an infinite one in Marvel.
So there's going to be a story, and I actually kind of like that. I always thought it was a cool feature. So you can get your bisexual Batman, and then they don't have to worry about fucking with their canon too much. And then when people are like, "This is fucking trash," it doesn't fuck with their shit as much.
Right.
So if you want to like pay attention to the main shit, I haven't been really paying attention to the main shit. So I
haven't bought new stuff in a while, yeah.
But my point is, it does get a little bit overcharged. Case in point, I think a lot of people are actually being overly, fucking critical of She-Hulk. But I think it's because, listen, hear me out. I think it's because no one had an idea what the fuck She-Hulk was. If you read the comics, and I don't think I've read like one or two of her comics, but I've seen her feature in other comics. I wasn't surprised. It was kind of like, oh, I mean, that's kind of what I expected. What we got, like.
So I think the argument against why that's woke trash is because they're making her way more powerful than like the Hulk almost.
Yeah.
And again,
they're displacing. The way I see it, I don't have really an issue with the character much. Like I don't like. I've watched the first 2 episodes, and I saw the way they're going with the character, the personality and stuff. I don't have a problem with that. I
mean, I don't like it, but I never liked her character in the comics.
Well, no,
either, so.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm saying comparing it to the comic
Yeah.
books, I don't care. Like I can see that fine.
She was always just there in the comics.
Right.
She was never like a fucking integral part of anything. She was like, I'm Hulk's cousin. It's like, cool. But also not as powerful. Okay.
But the dynamic,
cares?
the power dynamic, I do see as being kind of the way that Marvel has shifted things. The director a while back said like his goal was to make the majority of the MCU's base women or quote unquote feminine characters, and I think that's still the mission they're going on. Now, to Jose's point, he's 100% right. Like the multiple universe thing, like the way they do that is great. And that does, I think, give them a lot of leeway to do things. I would say that back in the day when the older comic books were coming out, a lot of times DC and Marvel would purposely run 2 versions or 2 different timelines or time periods of a hero at the same time so that people had the option to kind of pick and choose. But at this point, I feel like old fans or older fans' only option is to just go back-to-back issues, which is what everybody's kind of been doing. They just go to the older stuff.
Older fans
because there
porn
isn't
site for
that,
old ladies.
Right. There isn't that cohesion in the market where they're running both kind of genres at once. It's just this is kind of how all the writing is. And I think it has to do with because all the writers are coming out of colleges. They're teaching them that.
I would say I actually, as a comic book fan, that's actually how I've always done it since I started reading comics. I mean, I know a lot of people like to follow the current issues. I've never been that guy. And I think you're actually probably better off to not be that guy. You're probably better off to go look online, like, hey, what are the great all-time stories? And just go there because
the Marvel Collection series was great because it has a bunch of different, like, they'll take 9 issues of an old Spider-Man comic and put it in the same book. So it's real cheap, and you can just read through them all. It's great.
Yeah, like, I mean, you guys see all the books behind me. A bunch of those are comics, but most of those are the classics. I don't really have – it's not like I have, like, oh, this is Spider-Man 674 and 675 and 676. Like, I mean, I know a lot of people like to do that, and cool, that's your thing. Personally, I found a lot more enjoyment of just finding the great books like The Watchmen, The V for Vendetta,
great.
fucking, I don't know, Swamp Thing, Alan
Moore's Swamp Thing is really good.
Yeah, like you just go read that shit.
Yeah, I know. I totally agree.
For that blown up on canvas.
And you'll never run out. There's so much good shit out there. So like the idea you need to follow the new shit is kind of silly. Like, I mean, every now and then there's some new shit that comes out that's decent, but I guess I just like, and with the Marvel thing, yeah, if they really do completely go full bore into this, I'm like, but I actually don't necessarily have a problem with like the She-Hulks or whatever. I mean, it's not for me. But actually, that's kind of one of the things the feature I always liked about comics. They had so many different characters, and then also the multiple universe and stuff, so that you can always find something you like that's for you. If you're some basic bitch who for some reason wants to read comics and wants some empowering female character, there you go. Fucking She-Hulk, whatever. I mean, you probably
but there's
aren't gonna get
better
along with that
female that's the thing too. I feel like they're just pushing stuff to push. There's really strong female characters in comics. We all know that. And where are they? Where's the Jean Greys? Where's the fucking Rogues? Where's
So this is-
where's the
Well, they're
Storm?
waiting to get the X-Men in there, but
I feel like
Okay, I mentioned for X-Men characters, right?
I feel like with the female characters in Marvel, all of the female characters so far, in Marvel specifically, have been written in such a way that they're independent characters to the point where the male characters that are on screen feel like they have nothing to do. Like there's almost no reason for them to be there. Now, I think they did a great job with that, working against that with Infinity War, where everybody kind of is cohesive, I think, in that movie really well. But then by the end game,
that
like,
one scene.
right. And then in Endgame, I feel like that kind of fell apart in a lot of the scenes for me because it was the opposite.
Bullshit,
yeah. In that last that was when I want the confrontation.
Like, we'll take it from here.
Right.
Like,
I
okay.
want to see a confrontation between the biggest, baddest of the Avengers working together, right? And instead, what we got was like people who have no powers that are female characters being on screen longer than some of the most written about individuals in the Marvel world. And it's like, I don't know, like, who wrote this? And then you find out, well, it's like every one of these projects, it goes right back to that culture thing, because the writers of the comics back in the heyday when we liked comics, or when we really, read them, or when we go back and find those classics, are all from writers who went through tribulations, went through hardships, or, lived through them to at least see them. From the artists to the writers of the content for even the early film adaptations. And then that falls apart now. It's like these are all 30, 40-year-old writers who are really kind of disconnected from the comic books because they just picked them up maybe when they were younger, and those comics were already kind of on the downhill spectrum as far as writing goes. And
to move off the comic thing, though, did you guys see the James Bond thing too? They're like, he ain't gonna be a straight white guy anymore, and it was like, okay, well, that's not really the character.
But
I also don't really care about James Bond, to be fair. So it's like, but
James
like,
Bond
that's
is
what I
a
feel like
movie
they're always
series
trying to
is played out. Daniel Craig went from Casino Royale. I think Daniel Craig was perfect. That was great. And then everything else from then on was just, it's more and more like this movie went from about being a chauvinistic guy for guys to watch this about a spy to we're going to get all the girls to watch this, and it's about Daniel Craig having his shirt off.
Yeah. Which, hey, you know what? As a gay man, I didn't mind it.
I really want back to the Marvel thing. I want to push back. I think Captain Marvel was the turning point, honestly.
Oh,
like I think all the female characters,
the newspaper scene.
Well, no, listen. I think prior to Captain Marvel, I actually liked. I can't think of off the top of my head. Maybe I'm slipping. I really can't think of any characters like female-wise that I thought were necessarily written badly.
I agree with you 100%.
Post that's when they start going shit. But a lot of people don't realize Captain Marvel. I feel like that was kind of like a signal, because in the comics, before they introduced her, like probably for almost a decade before they introduced her into the movies, she was kind of this character that kind of got shoehorned. They tried to make her kind of almost like a borderline Superman character. No one gave a fuck about her.
Civil War 2.
Yeah, and they still tried to still shoehorn her in it. And I just felt like it was unearned. They just tried to throw her in there and be like, hoorah, she's the most powerful and she's awesome. And it's kind of like, eh. Whereas the other female characters probably that were written really well. I thought Gamora was written well. I thought fucking Black Widow was written well. Really, there's only two females I can think of off the top of my head.
Hold on.
Which is probably how it should be in a superhero thing. Let's be real.
I agree.
But, yeah, I don't know. I'm not necessarily like, my point being though is I guess I'm not necessarily against like the fucking shitty She-Hulk shows and stuff. If that's not for you, it's not for you. But it should be a wide range. But now if they're just trying to shoot like just be that, then no, like that's fucking.
Oh yeah, Scarlet Witch.
But
Good point, David.
Scarlet Witch. Yeah, Scarlet Witch is awesome. I actually think even I guess she kind of still was awesome after. I actually really, really liked her fucking what was the one with Vision and stuff. That was actually I thought it was like
WandaVision.
WandaVision. I thought that was great, honestly.
Yeah, but again, because they wrote her well. They're like, they finally made her kind of bad, which she always was, really. So, but that's what I'm saying. There's strong characters out there. And it's the same thing with all the Star Wars movies. Like, you guys hate the new Star Wars because you're misogynist. It's like, Leia. Yes. We love Princess Leia. What are you talking about? Yeah, well, we are, but it's irrelevant to how my feelings about this movie. It's like we do love strong female characters. Princess Leia was a strong female character. No one ever was like Princess Leia. Like no one ever said that. It's
Gay.
because you try to
Yeah, and the
shoehorn
later
Ray.
ones, yeah.
No. I'm talking about the original, the original 3. But then like you get the Ray in there, and it's like this whole fucking thing of like, I'm powerful as Luke Skywalker. It's like, for why? It's like all that shit. Anyway, but not to make this whole fucking a nerd segment, but we got to wrap it up. An hour and a half in. Guys, plugs. Leighton.
Follow me at Liberty Leighton on Twitter because I'm not banned, unlike Adam. And then you can check me out. I'll be doing a show tonight, shortly after this one ends, on my channel, Outlawed Thoughts. We're going to be talking about Joe Vogler and talking possibly with Hector about migrants coming across in planes.
Racist. Bring on the Hispanic guy.
Yep.
Jose?
All right. I'm Jose Galison. I have the No Way Jose podcast. I'm on YouTube, all the major audio podcatchers, and Odyssey as well. If you want to follow me on Twitter at SeniorJose2020, you can follow me on Facebook as you want under Jose Galison in case I get nuked. I've been nuked multiple times. I just had Dave Smith on again recently, so if you guys want to check that out,
won't come on this podcast.
I don't know why he keeps coming on mine. I don't know, but
but I do highly recommend everybody go check out your series with the about the Oklahoma City thing. That was awesome.
My god, yeah,
it's so fucking cool.
Yeah, I think I've done like over 10 hours on it now. It's still every episode still fucking I find to be riveting, honestly. But I highly suggest people go check it out. I honestly think it is the definitive OKC podcast series out there. I don't think I've seen anyone done it better. I know a lot of people point to Corbett and shit like that. I mean, yeah, he's done like episodes here and there, but I really think
your show is great. I really like it.
It's great.
Yeah, it's no. I'm not even trying to suck my own dick. It's actually, if anything, I'm trying to suck Richard Booth's dick. Like he's the fucking dude. He's my guest for that. He's the Libertarian Institute's like OKC guy. If you go to Libertarian Institute, was it .org or .com? I think it's
.org.
Org, fucking whatever. So yeah, if you go to there and go to their OKC, that's all him. That's all he set that all up. He's like basically the Scott Horton of OKC. He's just like autism incarnate of OKC. That's what he is, and it's been great. I cannot recommend him enough. So, but yeah, I appreciate you having me on. This was fun.
Yeah, no, it's always fun. Thank you, boys, for coming on. As always, guys, again, go follow me on all social media stuff. Go check out The Cult of Us. I do with the great Neil Wood. That's his comedy for you guys who are over politics. Go listen to The Cult of Us. And yeah, that is it, boys. Thank you for coming on. This has been fun as always. I'll catch you next week. Peace.
Thanks for listening. Find Adam on social media, Twitter and IG at Adam Nutter, or Facebook and TikTok at Adam Nutter Comedy. And for podcasts and merch, check out www.droptent.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.
This has been a Drop Tent Media production.